Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to continue talking about the on-ramp for new tabletop role-playing game fans in context of Dungeons and Dragons, and I specifically want to talk about Tabletop Family. So it is a specific channel. It's pretty new. It has about 1,400 subscribers, and it's a dad who has really kind of fallen in love with fantasy tabletop role-playing games, and he's trying to find a good fantasy role-playing game for running for his family and for himself, right? So he probably wants to run 2 or 3 campaigns. He wants one to be with his kids, he wants one to be with his friends, and then he wants maybe another one, a catalyst one, something that, you know, he can run, you know, short arcs, or he can do something different, right? So and those are going to be set at a frequency of once a week to once a month, right? But I am absolutely fascinated by this guy's channel, and the reason why is it's what happens with a new Dungeon Master, Dragon Master, when they drop in today in 2024. And I think one thing is, like, people are like, oh, role-playing games are easy, it's okay, you know, jump in, the water's fine, it's gonna be fun. And it's so wrong. Like, it is so difficult to do what we do, and and I'm like, my opinion of that is absolutely cemented by watching this gentleman. So first of all, I was fortunate. I caught the beginning of a 2-hour and 14-minute live stream that he did very late at night, and I was in on the beginning. And I'll link to that. And it was all. And he was saying, "Hey, I want to find a tabletop role-playing game to run with this friend of my son, with a family who has a son who is a friend to my son, right? Landon, right? And so he's trying to set up a situation for running a good tabletop role-playing game for kids, and it's just absolutely fascinating watching him, because first of all, let's just go through the basics, right? He's run D&D 5e, and he's kind of like, and he's thrown his nose up at it, right? And he's like, I don't like this. I want something different. And now he's running off to all these D&D roguelites, you know, D&D analogs, right? And there are so many. OSC. So I'm gonna name off the best ones that have been suggested to him and the best ones that he's done. So he's already run Dragonbane. He's already run, and I don't think he was really sold on that. He's already run Shadowdark, and he's still looking, which means Shadowdark isn't given what he needs for this new family, right? And this is like a young adult. This would be like a young adult game and their family, right? People have told him about OSE. People have told him about Knave, and I told him about Index Card RPG. And when he heard that, he's like, yeah, a lot of people have told me about Index Card RPG. And he got thrown off by the name. And Index RPG has a terrible name, but it's the best of all those games. If you're going to play not D&D, and that's what those games are, not D&D, it's just D&D, but not D&D, right? Like, Index Card RPG would serve him the best, but it has no ability to get to the top of his list, right? Because it's just, and the other thing is, it's black and white art with like red highlights, and the art is really like unique, right? And I love it, but not everybody does. So it's just fascinating watching him. And I think that, you know, and the reason why is I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Like, and I've been down the road he's been down, right? And you cannot hand your successes to anybody else. He should play Index Card RPG for 1.5 years and then return to D&D 5e. But he's going to go in 50 other directions, right? And what worries me is he's trying all these games. All his players are getting drug over glass, never getting any system mastery. They played Dragonbane, they played Dragonbane, Shadowdark, Mouse. He's done Cairn, like, and several others, right? And just like, oh, and he's looking at Savage World, and he's just looking at all these, you know. And the reality is, his players are just being ground over glass, right? No, you know, hey, you just barely understood this game. Let's throw all the pieces in the air and start a new game. right? Like, so it's and he's just making every mistake, in my humble opinion, right? But I get it, because you cannot, if there's a truth in this world, you cannot hand your research to anybody else. Your research is only valuable to you, right? Like, and so the reality is, one, he should have stayed on D&D 5e. I think he'll realize that 3 to 5 years from now, right? When he realizes, oh, if I just say D&D 5e, people are excited. They know what I'm talking about. They think Lego. They think Magic the Gathering. They think Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. And when I say OSE, people are like, oh, you want to do my taxes for me? Yeah, here's the forms, right? Like, no one has no idea what you're talking about, right? Like, and it's just, and so it is really fascinating to me. The other thing is, it's so frustrating seeing him try, right? Like, because the reality is, he should just remain on D&D VE. He should be using the 2024 player's handbook. There's nothing better. He's gonna look, right, and we can't stop him from looking, right? But he's not gonna find anything better. The best not D&D game in the world is Index Card RPG. He hasn't even looked at it, right? Like, and he's wasting time on stuff that isn't even half as good as that, right? And I think the thing I'm really fascinated by is, how can I change that? Is there any way for me to change that? Is there any way for me to, and not him, right? But him as an archetype. Like, how do we tell people, we know you're walking down a road that is a waste of time, right? You should have stayed on D&D 5e to begin with. You are wasting your time, and you will return when you realize the only people on these not D&D games are sour, like, desiccated, not people you want a dungeon master or dragon master with, right? And that the real juice is on the real game, right? Like, so it's just really tough to kind of get all the way there. But really fascinating to me. I hope he figures out about Index Card RPG at least. And then I hope he plays that and has fun with it for about a year and a half, and then returns to D&D 5e. But we shall see. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.